Part 3, Final Ending of Why Try. I had thought that her major problems were on their way to being addressed and was looking forward to not being a part of her life, and that her sister and family members would step up to the plate and do, at least, something to help. But when the crap hit the fan, who else is there? She really hasn't shown any real ability to deal with her own problems by herself. Hopefully, the doctors will get her crap straight, and this won't be an issue in the future, because I do realize that she will have to do her work for herself. At some point, it was just shocking to have it happen like it did. I told her sister today that I was going to get new phone numbers, emails, and that I would not give them to my STBXW, but would give my number to her. The sister, after giving it a lot of thought, I finally decided that I needed to disengage from my STBXW. I went to her house and we had a long talk about her situation and that I could no longer be her go-to guy and that she would have to rely on her friends and family and doctors for her care and support. In the future, I told her that I would not be attending the final divorce hearing and that anything she needed to contact me for, she should go through my lawyer from now on, as I won't be answering her call, texts, or emails, but would automatically refer them to her sister or her psychologist. I have decided that I will try not to ever see her again, and close out this chapter of my life and hers. I think that once I clearly understood the dynamics of my situation, I was better able to make some informed decisions concerning it. In reality, there were several dynamics involved: her affair, her emotional, mental health, my emotional condition, and, of course, the divorce. Once I had my ducks in progression, I was able to act decisively on each dynamic in its proper turn. For example, once I decided that R wasn't going to happen, then I was able to be supportive of her without committing to it. It takes a lot of time and work, but I think I'm over the hump now. Well, my D is final on Monday. I can't imagine how it will play out, but nothing would surprise me. Well, the karma bus finally turned down my street, parked in front of my house, and gave me a morale boost that has me about as happy as I've been in quite a while. My ex and her sister are moving to California at the end of July. My ex had a setback yesterday. She told her sister that she was having those thoughts. By those she meant ex. She was admitted to hospital again yesterday afternoon. A month later, I've recently bought a loft condo in Chicago, and am setting it up for my fiancé and I. Maybe my life can move forward from this. Like I told you guys, I don't know the length or ending when I do these stories. It was a surprisingly short ending. So here's a story too for you guys about her thing. Let's see where to start. I am currently deployed away from home and have been for over 7 months now. Both my wife and I are in the military, although she is back home in the States, in our house, with our 2 boys, S8, my stepson, and S6. We've been married for almost 7 years, and together for almost 8. This is the first time we've been separated for more than a week. Anyways, to elaborate on my situation, my wife and I have always had a good relationship with each other. Rarely argued, loved each other in many ways, frequent sex, great moments with our kids and my family. Her family isn't around us. We have both been divorced before getting married to each other, with both previous marriages ended by affairs by our ex-spouse. We met shortly after both marriages ended and hit it off very well. Well, to detail the current situation, since I've been deployed, my wife and kept in contact with each other daily through Facebook, Skype, and phone calls, where we'd tell each other about our day and talk about the kids, and we'd do our best to be intimate with each other often. Like I said, I'd been gone for over 7 months. There were a couple rough patches during those months, but we were doing well, or so I thought. At the end of May last month, my wife started acting a little indifferent towards me. I asked her what was wrong, and she proceeds to tell me that she feels our marriage is in trouble and doesn't know if we'll make it. I'm totally shocked by this, so I take it pretty hard and we talked through her feelings. She told me that she wasn't happy with our marriage, just comfortable with it, and hadn't been happy in a long time. Just the week before and many times before that, she had told me how awesome of a husband and dad I am, and how she constantly brags to her friends and coworkers about me. She also said she wanted to fight for me, and she wanted me to fight for her. I wholeheartedly agreed with her and said we would continue talking things through and would work on our marriage and fight for each other and the kids when I got back home. So that was at the end of last month, May. After that day, we go back to our normal conversations and such. A week later, I find out suddenly she has plans to go out of town and would be attending a class and needed her friend to watch our boys. I jump in and tell her wait, let my parents watch the boys for not just the weekend, but for a whole week. That way she could get some time to herself, do some things around the house she's been wanting to do, and still go out to her class. She agrees and my parents get the boys the next day. The next day, beginning of June now, we are still having normal conversations about our plans when I get home at the end of June, and about the kids, the house, etc. 3 days before she leaves to go out of town to her class, she stops talking to me. No Facebook, no phone calls, nothing. I didn't hear from her for 2 days. During this time I'm worried something had happened to her. On the third day, I finally hear back from her by message saying she was just taking time to enjoy herself and get her mind off things. By this time, I'm already suspecting something is going on. So I check our cell phone bills. Red flags all over. She's texting this guy who lives several states away, and has been talking to his guy since mid-April. Phone calls that lasted over 2 hours a few times, and dozens of texts almost every day. This is the time I get the sick feeling in my mind and stomach that she's been having an E with this guy, and it's going to turn into a PA. This is almost like my first marriage all over again, so for 3 days I'm freaking out and a wreck, and the only thing I hear from her is I'm enjoying my time, we'll call later. What the duck? Somehow, I lasted till the 4th day, when she is picking up the boys from my parents. She finally calls me and we talk. Nothing is going on, she said. She was by herself the entire time and she had a fun with her class and seeing the big city. She was able to explain in detail enough of what she had done that I was relieved. Too excited to see several holes in her story at first. So being the dummy, I let it go and she apologized for making me worry and said she should never cheat on me. She knows what it did to me from my first marriage, and she knows what it feel like from her first marriage as well. I am overjoyed to hear her say all this, so we go back to having normal conversations. But now there's a lot less affection from her, not saying I love you really, and not calling me pet names as much, honey, baby, etc. I try not to let it bother me. But it does ... and I still am not seeing things clearly. A week goes by with this going on. All the while I'm acting cheerful and confident, knowing that in a few more weeks I'd be home on leave for a whole month and finally getting to sit down with my wife and kids again before having to go back to my deployment area to finish the 12-month stretch. At the end of that week, we're talking on Skype. She sees me being cheerful and confident, happy to see her and the kids. She has the boys go to their room and watch TV. And then she looks at me for a minute and tells me the most painful thing I've ever endured. Honey, you were right. I did cheat on you. You called it ... He met me while I was out of town, and we had sex. I'm floored, but for some damn reason. I didn't freak out. I didn't get mad. I didn't even cry. I let her continue ... She went on about how she was unhappy, and this guy said all the right things to her. They started talking to each other through a game they play together with other friends of hers. She starts crying profusely and tells me she will never forgive herself for what she did. She said what was going on in our marriage was no excuse to hurt me and do what she did. Even then, all I could say was okay. She said it's not okay. What I've done is the most horrible thing she could have done to me. I agreed with her, but with little emotion. We talked for 3 hours. She said it was a mistake. She would stop talking to the guy, never see him again. And how much she loved me and cared about me. And all I could do was agree with her and tell her she needed to stop talking to the guy. That he used her and said all the right things to her at the weakest point in her life. She told me okay, and she wanted to keep talking to me about us and the kids, and what had happened, and figure things out. Over the next 2 days, we talked but only about normal things, and didn't talk for very long. Tried to call her the next day, but no answer. She calls me the next day and only tells me we need to talk. Again, we get on Skype, and she hits me again with more bad news. She wants a divorce. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? I asked if she was still talking to this guy, and she said yes, but it doesn't matter. Because she's done. She doesn't think we can fix our marriage. I'm like, what the heck happened? She had told me her and this guy were through. Found out later through checking cell phone records he kept calling her, and they talked. At this point I'm getting very hurt, confused, but still did not get overly emotional about what she's telling me. We talked for over an hour about why she was feeling this way, and I didn't try to argue with her ... Just listen. What she said didn't make a whole lot of sense, so at this point I'm convinced this guy is really leaning into her and pressuring her to leave me for him. I have been tempted to call up this guy and chew him out, but at this point I'm trying to regroup and make sure I don't make any bad choices that will push my WS even further. Since that day 4 days ago, she's called me every day. I don't call her now, to make sure I'm okay and the kids wanting to talk to me. She's also messaged me several times on Facebook for normal conversations. Work, the house, kids. Not only am I terribly confused and hurt, but I am also not sure what to do. I go home on leave in 6 days for a month, then have to come back here for 3 months to finish my deployment. 1. Do I expose her now or wait until I go home on leave in 6 days? It's going to be hard since I'm deployed. 2. Do I demand she end the affair, or just go 180 on her? 3. Or do I do what has been suggested elsewhere? File for divorce and let her go. Just to be a little dramatic, I thought that if something were to happen to me over here, it'd be from a missile attack or enemy action. I'd never thought it would be my wife who would almost kill me. From half a world away. Sigh, I'm in keeping strong for myself and kids though. I do know who the other man is, but not much about him. She told me other man is married, but other man's wife moved back to her home country, and they are no longer together, which has been somewhat verified. I agree that I should openly demand the affair end and will start the 180 right now. I'm debating whether to call her boss. He's a really good guy and she respects him, so I think he could talk to her and figure some stuff out for us. I'm also debating whether to call her family too, so they can call her and figure out what's going on. I hope it doesn't come down to divorce, but it might be the only thing that really wakes her up. Yeah, I need to figure out really quick what to do. I did have a plan to go 180 on her before she dropped the divorce talk on me. Think it's still my best option, as well as divorce preparations. I've contacted her boss, who she trusts and respects, and he said he was shocked about what's going on and will definitely get her to talk about it tomorrow. Now I've got to keep the ball rolling and get her family and friends to talk with her too, hopefully for the better. I am in the process of exposing her now, if all goes well. From tonight till all throughout the weekend, she'll get slammed with messages and phone calls from family and friends, with no time to worry about other man, just herself. I will try to get a lawyer ASAP, whether that happens now or when I get back stateside in several days. If anything, since she is in the military still, I will have her boss or an officer give her a no-contact order that will stay in effect until the end of our divorce. If it comes to that, I will see if my lawyer can make arrangements. I could definitely tell she was generally remorseful, because she cried for the entire 3 hours we talked about, made good decisions on saying she would end it with other man and never talk to him again, and that she would sit down and talk with me, and we would figure things out, whether we could work things out or not. That was my real wife. I hate to think about it because during that brief time since last month, it was one of the very few times I could see the real her and not question if she was being real or not. Now she's been sucked back in by other man and gosh knows what they're up to, exposing her to her, my family as I type this. She's not going to get a chance to breathe for the next days. Methinks I had set it up to have my parents move back near her and the kids so she could have some support. Friends she had that said they'd be there for her while I was gone have disappeared. But now I'm thinking I'll have my parents stay where they are. Her only close friend that she trusts with the kids. I'll be sure to contact her too. Yeah, I've been talking to a mental health professional here, and it helps a little. I'm also talking to an MC stateside. Phone conversations. I'm very tempted to contact other man and firmly state to him that I will not tolerate his continued destruction of my family. I'm not sure if this will help my cause though. I really appreciate your support and wanting me to come home to my boys. Even through all of this, I'm still very excited to come home and see my boys and family. I do believe I have to say what I have to say to other man, even if no good comes of it. If I state clearly what I want, and the repercussions to him, was his kid, and my kids, if there's any decency in that piece of crap, he'll might at least temporarily back off. Might give me time to work some magic of my own and get some things straight. I'll be sure to record our conversations, especially if they get hairy. Might come in handy later. I am confident I will be able to talk and deal with her in a non-angry, positive manner most of the time. This entire time this stuff has been going on, I have yet to raise my voice or degrade her. I would especially not degrade her. Never have during our time together. She was a wonderful wife before all this crap happened. I know she's going to get mad at me, so not talking to her until I get home shouldn't be a problem. Lol. I'll just have to find another ride from the airport. I will think about exposing the other man. Right now, I think I have to concentrate on was. But I think I still will call. Leave a message to remind him who he's dealing with. Definitely will get a divorce attorney that deals with family cases. I want the best for my kids. No matter what happens. You're right, I will let her know I'm fighting for her, for the kids and our marriage. I hope it's enough to get her out of the fog she's in. Here's an update. So, 3 of her closest associates, friends, family members now know what's going on. I called other man and left a message on his phone, to the effect of, "Do not contact my wife from now on. Her boss knows what's going on, and she now has a no-contact order in effect against her. Any communication between her and OM will cause serious consequences to her and her career. Reduction in rank, fines, court-martial, possible jail time, and also will harm our families." I told him that's how much I am fighting for her and our families. I then went over it again, just so it would sink in. I also said if he cared about her and our families, he wouldn't contact her, even if she tried to contact him. I then finished with how much this is hurting her and our family, and he's especially hurting my kids. If he persists, I will come after him with everything I've got. Not a threat. It's just the way it's going to be. I then called was to let her know where I stood on things. The reason why I did this was because I wanted her to know the cat is out of the bag. I'm not going to sit by any longer. I won't tolerate her hurting us, our kids and our families, and I'm doing everything I can to fight for us. She said she understood and would not contact him anymore. We'll see. She wasn't upset really, just quiet. Said she didn't want to get upset while at work. She did seem put out. I told her boss, her father and her friend what had been going on. I hope this was a good move on my part. I can see this possibly backfiring at some point. Yikes, she said she wanted to talk more, but when she got home so she could be emotional. We'll see what happens. It's hard for me to not take some blame for what has happened in our marriage. The issues she brought up for not being happy. I can definitely see where she's coming from. I'm not saying this was acceptable to make her decide to cheat, and I'm not saying I'm taking any blame for her decision to cheat. All I'm saying is that I do believe she was at least a little unhappy. Unhappy, but comfortable. As she put it, I know now what I should have done differently, and will do to make changes. But I'm going to make the changes for me, not for her. I know this is going to sound strange, but she has owned up to her parts of our marriage not being as good as it should have been. And I see where she is coming from. She did tell me many times of things that bothered her and issues she had with us. But I didn't really listen. Again, I do accept blame for the issues in our marriage. I, however, will never, ever accept any blame for her choice to cheat. I honestly felt a little bad for getting the people involved that I did, the reasons being, they all felt really uncomfortable and it affected them deeply. Her boss didn't feel like eating today, and her friend had a bad night even though her family was coming into town. Her dad was supportive of me but didn't know what he could do to help. I still stand by my decision to expose the sitch to them but do feel guilty for how much it affected them. I did tell her that I was fighting for her and our family, and I didn't have much choice in the matter. After things calmed down a bit, she messaged me throughout the day to talk about normal things, such as doing stuff around the house when I go home on leave next week. I'm definitely confused by her behavior. One day we'll have our normal conversations, minus saying I love you or showing any other affection, besides calling me honey, and she'll even call to me make sure I'm doing okay. The next day she'll either barely contact me or ignores me completely. So, confused, I pray that exposing her will not cause irreparable harm to our sitch. I know it was a risky decision, but for now it seems to have halted the contact between her and other man. I can't verify everything but will be able to do so more when I get home. My family understands what I'm trying to do, and are very, very supportive of my decisions. The person that will have the hardest time with all of this will be my mother, as she is very old-fashioned, and despises those who mess with my family and kids. I do pray you're right about it being a bunch of crap with her saying she wants a divorce. I really do believe this was pressure caused by other man to try to ruin our marriage. That was the biggest factor for exposing, getting OM out of the picture. At least for now. The 3 times she got really emotional with me on Skype, I could honestly see my old wife talking to me, and that hurts even worse. At those times she would show her guilt and anguish and tell me she loves me so much and will always love me and care about me. The next time I would talk to her, it was pretty much like it never happened. I am starting to second-guess my decision to expose. I hope time will tell that I made the best decision that I could. I do believe she is embarrassed and mad at me for exposing. I do hope in the end, this will be the beginning of the end of the affair she let happen. Again, I do hope that I will not have to initiate D but will do so if it's my last resort. As far as long will I fight for her? I'm not so certain. My confidence and resolve are on thin ice as it is. She doesn't seem remorseful right now but has a couple times in the recent past. I know I have to take all of this into account when I deal with her and feel that my best bet is to continue my 180 with her and plan accordingly as we go along. I will not attempt to R with her until I know for sure she is committed to our marriage and repairing the damage done by both of us. I will do my best to not jump into forgiveness mode. I know in doing so, it will wreck any true R we may have, and will further degrade any chance of our marriage working out. I have attempted to figure out the status of OM's separated wife and his family. Nothing has come back so far. I can tell by looking at other man's Facebook, he is nothing but a predator. He has over 200 friends, and almost 200 of them are female. He sends out little messages here and there to feel people out and strikes when is most advantageous to him. What a frigging creep. I must admit, in my current position, it is hard not to second-guess my decision to expose. But ultimately, I do feel it was the right choice. Especially because of her strong reaction to what I did. Time will tell for sure. If she ever does want to I will be there for her as much as I can. I know deep within me that it will be a difficult road, but I also feel strongly we will make it and have a much better, deeper relationship than before. Now if I could only get her to see it, as much as it may seem opposite to other people, my yêus is a very good woman and mother. I know her choice to be selfish and have an affair will have a lasting effect on herself and the relationships with everyone she knows. But I do hope in the end, she'll be a stronger person for it. No matter what, I am doing my best to get good sleep. Some nights I can only sleep for 2 or 3 hours. Other nights I don't have any real issues. Eating is a whole different issue. Most days I can only handle 1 meal, and the occasional snack. I have been hitting the gym more often, and I believe this to be a huge asset in my determination to be more confident and bringing about the new me. Just an update to my sitch. I hadn't talked to W since yesterday morning and didn't hear from her until this morning. She called but I didn't answer. She called again about 15 minutes later, and I answered the phone. She said my younger boy, S6, had gotten in trouble and that I should talk to him. I'm like, what the hell, really? That's why you called me? This is part of her recent behavior that confuses me. One day she doesn't contact me at all or barely has any communication with me. I don't contact her either. Then the next day she will make multiple attempts at contacting me and will act pretty normal like nothing is going on. In any case, I got to talk to both of my sons, and then we talked for a while. She also wanted to verify my flight information again so she'd know for sure when to come pick me up at the airport. So, confused. One day she will barely have any contact with me or none at all. And the next day we chat and talk like everything is normal. Besides showing little affection, I haven't brought up the stuff to her after she broke down and told me what was going on. I'm going to do my hardest to make sure everything is addressed when I get back home. Right now, I can't do a whole lot about her rug sweeping. She now knows that I won't tolerate what's going on anymore. And I have to stay on top of that. Yeah, the situation with her ex is another thing that really hurts, bothers me. She went through and with him. And she even tried to stay with him for a few months to work things out or figure out what she wanted. She made a decision at that point to DM. Going to counseling and having her checked over by a mental health professional will definitely be a part of the terms of reconciliation. Almost 3 months update. I feel that by sharing my story with others, they can possibly gain insight from what worked for me if their situation is at least somewhat similar. So far anyways, since I went home on leave at the end of June and continuing since then, my wife and I have made great steps to get past the affair and work on a better marriage with each other, with the exception of a few getting things off our chests episodes, which was kind of ugly in some respects but overall a part of our healing process. Everything since then has been great between the two of us. And our kids and families. I realize there are going to be those who are skeptical or will show downright animosity towards my situation, as my D-Day was only 3 months ago and we've ended up in reconciliation and are doing really well. Even with me being back at my deployed location for a couple more months, I also understand there will be those who will tell me to be cautious. Not to rush things, not trust my formerly WW, etc. I get it. I am still cautious, scared, I trust but verify as best I can, etc. Yet I'm still very optimistic and hopeful of my situation and marriage. We both still have a long way to go as well. My comment, hope you guys like the ending of these, where there's 1 divorce and 1 reconciliation. Which one you liked better? Comment down below, sub and bell and let me begin the week.